Hey guys, and welcome back to Heritage Hollow Homestead. Today I want to share with you some really fast growing crops that if you have just 2 weeks left in your grow zone, left before your first frost, you can actually get a harvest from these things, a few of these, in as little as 2 weeks. Most of the other ones that I'm going to mention you can actually harvest after a frost and get a really good harvest within 30 days. So even though you may feel like time is running out, which it kind of is, there are still plenty of things that you can plant and get a harvest from. So I want to share those with you really quick. Okay guys, so it is, as we're getting into our fall season, it is too late to start from seed. Several things, if you live in any type of intermediate growing zone, so unless you live in somewhere like Florida or somewhere where maybe lower Alabama, somewhere really close to those zones 8 and 9, 10, if you live in those zones, you can grow just about anything any time of the year. But for us that live in zone 7 and above, our time to be planting our fall gardens is really, our window is really closing. And unlike early spring gardens, once you miss your window, you just kind of miss it. So it's important to get those things planted as soon as possible. So maybe you're running a little behind, or maybe your summer garden was already, it's been putting out so much that you haven't had a reason to pull it up yet. But you still want to get something in for a fall garden. Well, here are going to be some things that you can start to harvest from in as little as 2 weeks. And one of the first of those things is going to be any type of lettuce mix. You can plant these and they will actually be tall enough to start harvesting from within 2 to 3 weeks. These are going to be your baby greens. So like your baby spinaches, baby kales, any types of baby lettuce blends. So you can actually start to harvest from those and then continue to harvest from them going forward. And if your frost doesn't come right on time, then you will get an extended harvest. You can also sow these in something like, I'll show you what I like to use, is something like a hanging basket. I like to plant my salad mixes in what I would call a little salad bowl, and then you can move these under a shelter or in a garage window or something like that and continue to harvest from them for a very long time. Then you're going to have, and that's any type of lettuce mixes, like I have iceberg, I've got some, I don't know if you can actually see that, it doesn't like to zoom in on them, red wing, more iceberg, I really like iceberg, and then, okay, I don't know what all I brought out here. Oh, Paris Island is another one of my favorites. These are all heirlooms. So get those started, and especially if you get them started in some type of a pot or a planter, you will have plenty of time to grow those still. Another thing that you can plant, and it will last you well into winter time. It doesn't mind the frost or even some freezes. I've harvested, knocked the snow off of it and harvested, and it tastes extra tasty in the winter time. I actually don't really like to eat this during the summertime or as it gets hotter because I don't like the flavor. And that is kale. I like this blue curled Scotch kale. That's my favorite personally. But you can plant that. You can start to harvest it as an early baby green within 2 to 3 weeks, and then you can continue to harvest this well into the winter, so you can sow lots of that. Spinach is going to be the same. I actually don't have a seed to bring out here, but I have already planted my spinach and it's growing. Spinach you can start to harvest within 2 to 3 weeks, and it will also hold up pretty well to some frost and maybe even a freeze or two, and it also gets much sweeter in those cooler temps. So definitely advise trying spinach even if you don't think that you like it. Try growing it in the winter and taste it and see, because I think you will like it a lot better grown in the wintertime. A few other things that you can grow, and you can go ahead and plant onion sets and let those start growing in the fall, and then you'll harvest them in the springtime or in early summer. And garlic, you will want to be planting your garlic in fall, but you won't harvest them until next summer. But those are things that you definitely, no matter when it is in fall, as it gets cooler, like I actually won't plant mine until further into October, probably towards the end of October. But depending on where your grow zone is, you might want to look that up on when to plant your garlic. But fall is a great time to plant your garlic, okay? For many regions, you can plant peas, certain varieties of peas, like your snow peas, and they will hold up fairly well to frost, freezes, and they really don't mind the snow, and you'll be able to get a harvest from those. But those do take 60 to 80 days before you get to harvest from those. So depending on where you are, they may grow very slow. Actually, last year I planted snow peas November 1st in a kind of like a cold frame, and I started harvesting from them the second week of March, and that's because they grew very slowly over the winter months, but they did grow, and that just got me really ahead on my early spring garden actually. But if you still have some, if you got 60 days left in your grow window of time, definitely peas. I did plant peas just a few weeks ago. We'll see if we get to harvest them. You know, you never know unless you try. And I planted little Marvel peas and a giant pea and Oregon snow peas, I believe. I planted 3 different kinds. So you can try the peas. They do take longer though, but they will often hold up to some cold weather. The next thing that you can plant, and you do not have to wait very long for a harvest, is going to be your radishes. Radishes take 30 days or less sometimes for some varieties. In less than 30 days you can harvest your radishes. So radishes, you definitely got time to plant those, okay? In your greens, as in turnip greens and collard greens, you can be planting those. Or if you enjoy turnips and you want to plant something like the purple, the globe turnip, those will be ready in about 30 to 40 days. So if you have 30 days left, you've got time for those. And even if you can't harvest the root, you can always eat the greens, which is actually the only reason why we grow turnips here, is just for the turnip greens. We do a mix of turnip greens and collard greens and mustard greens. Very delicious. So you definitely have time for those. Those are another 30 to 40 days to harvest. You can harvest those as a baby green as well. Basically, anything that is a leafy green, most root crops, you'll have time to plant those. Let's see. Radishes and beets. I already have my beets planted, so I'll show you those. I planted some bull's blood beets. Those only take 30 to 45 days to harvest, so you have time for those. And you can go ahead and sow your carrots. And this can be a little confusing to people because they tend to, once a frost or something comes, it will start to kill off the tops of your carrot plants, but the roots will continue to grow very slowly. So if you plant your carrots now, you may not actually be able to harvest them until maybe next March or April, but it will get you a good head start on your spring planting. So those are several things that you still have time to plant, or that you will need to plant for a spring harvest that you need to plant now. So I'm going to go over those one more time, and I'll try to do it one more time from what grows the fastest, and then to this what takes the longest, and then what you will actually not harvest until the spring. So the fastest things that you can grow are going to be your leafy greens, because you can harvest those as a baby green or even a microgreen, depending on how you want to grow those. So any type of leafy green like salad mix. You have your kale, and spinach. Those do not take very long. They taste much better in the fall. 30 days you'll have really nicely sized plants, but you can harvest them in just 2 to 3 weeks as baby greens as well. Then we have our radishes, which take 30 days, sometimes less than that. That's going to be a very short growing season crop. You have beets that will take on average 30 to 45 days. So those you can still possibly have time. And we have, this is another radish, French breakfast radish. These are nice and kind of spicy and tangy. Then we also had the turnips and collards. Those take probably 3 to 4 weeks, and you can be harvesting those for their tops, and 4 to 6 weeks, and you can be harvesting some really nice the roots of those as well. And then if you have just a little bit of extra time, you can try to plant some peas. You may have time to grow you a snow pea or a English pea, depending on what your weather is like. And lastly, don't forget about your carrots and parsnips and your onions and your garlic. And you can be planting those now or in the coming weeks, and then you will overwinter those, which means that you just leave them in the ground, maybe cover them with some mulch, and they will kind of go dormant, or they may still continue to slowly grow. And as soon as the warm weather arrives in early spring, like end of February, 1st of March, just as temperatures begin to rise a little bit, all of those plants will wake right back up, and they will just continue to grow, and you will get a really nice early spring harvest from your peas and carrots. And then your onions and your garlic you will not harvest until early summer, so make sure that you leave a spot in your garden if you're going to plant those. Just make a note that those are going to be there for quite a while, so choose your spot wisely. And so those are some things that you still have plenty of time to get out and plant. So I want to encourage you to get out, pull up your old summer garden if it's still there, and plant something new. I'll show you really quick a few things that I have planted. My garden actually looks kind of meh right now because it's in that weird in-between stage where I just planted seeds for some of it, and some of it's growing pretty well. But the fall garden doesn't always tend to look as magnificent because you're not growing a lot of big, tall, huge plants, but things are still growing. And so I'll take you along. I'll show you what a few of those things are. I have all my leafy greens planted. I have radishes and turnips, carrots, onions. I have 2 different kinds of carrots and onions started at 2 different times for harvest. Beets, we have cucumbers that are starting to grow, melons that haven't come to harvest yet that were late bloomers, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. We still have peppers that are putting out daily, okra I'm looking at. I need to pull those, and yeah, lots of salad mixes and Swiss chard. So I'll just take you along and show you what all those look like really quick. I want to encourage you to get out there, plant something. You can always plant in some of your old pots as well, and then move those under shelter before frost and freeze to extend that harvest of especially leafy greens, things like your carrots or onions, and be able to make those last a little longer as well. So I'm going to turn this around and show you what I have going. Thank you guys for watching also. Bye. Okay guys, so behind me here I don't know if you'll be able to tell or not, but all these little tiny greens, that's actually a second sowing of greens, like leafy greens that are in here. Some of these taller ones, like here and here, that is iceberg and Paris Island blends, and that over there is kale, that I actually started like about a month and a half ago. I just transplanted them, and I went behind and heavily sowed in leafy greens for this entire area because I want it to all be covered in leafy greens. So that's what's going on there. Right here we have cucumbers growing. They're starting to grow up right here. And then I'll turn it around and show you what else is going on. Everything's at different stages. And I do have weeds because I just don't spend all day out here weeding. So just ignore those. All right, I want to turn you around. Okay, so we have cabbages and red cabbage. This is a early Wakefield cabbage, which something has started to nibble on. I'm going to have to spray that with some neem oil. And then down here, these are ready. I'm sorry, we live right by an airport, so we always have this noise. We have some turnips. You can see here. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of turnips. I'm growing these specifically for the turnip greens, which are ready to harvest. These are, it looks like, and that's all of those. This is all turnip greens. We really love our turnip greens. And then we have more purple cabbage. We have some okra. That's just kind of there just for extra little something every now and again. And I have a border of onions that are growing nicely here. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but they're down through here. Onions line the entire border of my bed, of this bed. They're all down through here. We have lots of volunteer tomatoes. Pull that out. These have been growing like crazy. Then we have several things of cucumbers that are really being stubborn and not wanting to trellis, but there they are. Okay, so down in here, if you can see all these tiny little baby plants, that is all leafy greens down through there. Okay, of different kinds, varieties. This is a Paris Island, I believe, in kale. And just lots and lots. This entire bed is, if you look closely, there's tons of little leafy greens. Then we have all of these collard greens that will go with our turnip greens. Little buddy over there. Okay, we continue to have onions down through here. Red cabbages. And some beautiful Swiss chard that's growing very nicely. I can actually start harvesting from this if I wanted to, but I'll let it grow larger. It's very pretty. And some more red cabbages and onions all the way around. Okay guys, so over here is a couple of melon plants that I just decided to just let them go ahead and grow even though they're late. I have no idea if we'll actually get any melons from this before the first frost, but I'm just going to let them go. They look pretty and we'll see what happens. And then tucked in there with those melons is cucumbers. This is cucumbers. All the way around our little teepee is cucumbers. There is a tomato plant over there that is blooming nicely. I still have roughly a month until our first frost, so I may get a few tomatoes off of that. We'll see. It's not taking up any space, so I'm allowing it. And down in the middle we have some cabbages here and there. I don't know if you can actually see those or not. Okay, so I have lots of pepper plants that are still going strong. They're still getting some peppers on them. And this bed and that bed are basically the same, so I'll just show you this one. We have broccoli, cauliflower, some Brussels sprouts, and All kinds of brassicas are in here, as well as onions around the border again. And one lonely little volunteer corn, I just allowed it. And then we have a couple of beds of potatoes that are doing really well, and mixed in with those potatoes is just a really thin sowing of some fall corn that hopefully it's going to make it. Some of it's growing a lot faster than others, but it's starting to tassel up here. This is, I believe, peaches and cream. I'll have to go back and look. I actually kind of don't remember what I planted, but what I have realized is the potatoes and the corn are actually growing really well together because they're not competing for space. Since the potatoes are growing down, these are growing up. So they are doing so far so good. And then on the back here, I have planted peas all along where my beans used to be, and I'm waiting for those to get going. And then here's some corn that seems to be a little ahead of everything else with some really pretty tassels. And I just kind of walk by and shake that, and that helps get everything pollinated well. Then I have carrots right here. This is a nice little bed of carrots. These are doing really well. They've got about 30 days though before I can actually harvest these, which will be right at frost time, so they'll be extra sweet in the cool weather. So you have those. And then I have some random corn in with a bed of, I'm sorry, I have this is where I carry my seeds out, but onions. These are 2 or 3 different types of onions. And then back here there are peas that are planted. They're just not, they haven't broken through the ground yet. So that's what's happening there. Okay, so these beds are a little less than exciting right now, but I just planted these beds out just a few days ago. This is all carrots. Carrots can take 10 to 14 days to germinate. So when you plant carrots, don't give up on them. It just takes them a long time. And I haven't put my markers in, so I left my seed packets here for now. And these are, I think these are Danvers carrots. And then on the back side of this is peas. Those are snow peas. Okay, so then down through here, we have our red bull's blood beets. There's a few of those planted and growing down through there. And this is all kinds of leafy greens as well. We have radishes over here, we have turnips, and then we have spinach and a couple of different types of lettuces. And the same here. You can see all those little babies. Those are different kinds of lettuces. Turn you around. And there will be peas all the way down through here. And then this bed is once again going to be radishes and carrots. And they have not germinated yet. These little guys are doing good. All the leafy greens, I sow them very thickly, and then I'll come back and thin them out a little bit later on. Okay guys, so I just wanted to share all that with you to encourage you that you still have time to plant something. Something is better than nothing. I mentioned in one of my last videos that our grocery store has been really struggling with their stock for any type of leafy greens. I went in there for several weeks and there was absolutely no lettuces, no bags of lettuce, no heads of lettuce, no nothing. That has leveled out a little bit right now, but I'd already planted my first round, which is behind me, of all my leafy greens, just to combat against that. And so I want to encourage you guys, grow something. Something is so much better than nothing. Leafy greens are such a great source of nutritional value. They're so high in vitamins and the nutrients that you will need to stay healthy throughout the winter. And they're so easy to grow. Leafy greens are, they're almost totally foolproof. So you can plant them in pots, you can plant them just straight in the ground, in your raised beds. you just can't go wrong with planting some leafy greens. And then you'll have an available side dish, you know, all fall and into the winter months. So to me, it is just a win-win. You can't go wrong with planting lots of leafy greens. And I struggle with growing a lot of leafy greens right now. I don't grow a lot in the summertime, so we look really forward to getting those fresh salads straight from the garden in the early spring and then again in fall. And I'll cover some of these with a frost cover, and I will actually get really nutritious, healthy salad mixes all winter long, which is my favorite time to grow them because they taste so much sweeter. And when there's not really much else to do in the garden in the winter time, I still can come out here and harvest something, and that makes my heart happy. As well as they are great ground cover. It really can keep your soil healthier by just keeping your ground covered with something all winter long. So just want to get you encouraged to get out there and grow something, and try those radishes and turnips and onions and garlic. Nothing's better than a homegrown onion or garlic. The same plane keeps flying over and over again. We live next to a small, like a private airport, and so a lot of times people are doing lessons in private airplanes and they just make the same circle. It's very annoying, honestly. Anyway, get out there and grow something today. I hope you guys have a good day. Get out and enjoy the fall weather, get some sunshine, and just enjoy all the blessings that God has given you. Take time to look around and enjoy some nature, and just be thankful for all that you have, and thankful for creation, and yeah, get out there and get to growing something. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Bye. I wanted to share this one last thing with you also. Really important fall gardening tip is that you need to remember to water your fall garden a lot, because even though the mornings and evenings are really cool, the summer sun is still very much there, even though we're at the beginning of fall. And so I have always felt like our fall garden requires more water than any other time of the year. So I usually try to water my garden in the morning and in the evening. And one last tip is do not water your garden any time of the year during the heat of the day. Choose those early morning hours or late in the evening to do your watering, but definitely check on your fall garden more than maybe any other time of the year. Don't know what it is about it, but it always seems like it requires a lot of water. Hope you guys have a good day.